Are we live?
I don't know I mean, but
I have no freaking clue right now. Oh man, I can hear you. That's a good thing, right?
I can see a quarter of you or half.
Well,
Hi, there we go. Here. Hi. Oh, I know. You guys, I'll do the.
I don't know, man. I don't know. This is new. This is the first for us. Here we go. Nope. I'm not ending stream. Hold on. I don't know, bro. What's up, Joseph?
I don't know.
All right, you're in, you're out. This is going to be a unique Restoration Rebel roundtable. That's for sure. Hold on a second. There's got to be a way. All right. Well, what do you know? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I mean,
I got to tell you, man. This is
unique.
this is less than ideal. All right, what's up, Restoration Rebels? This is Andy McCabe and Joe Spears trying to come to you live. God damn. This is weird. What are you seeing, Joe?
I pretty much see your face.
You can see my face. I can't see you. I'm gonna come back to... Wait, say that again. You're in, you're out. I'm gonna close all these other windows. Yeah, this is what happens when you don't really plan well and you're away from your computer. That's what happens. That is... I see a... It sounds like you're in like a hurricane right now. What's going on?
That's it.
Say that again. Hello. There
Hey,
you are. I see you. There's a weird thing in your background here. I'm just gonna watch you from this little... You're about this big in my screen. You're this big. Oh, all right. We got Justin Walker watching, evidently. Walker, Justin, give me a thumbs up or something to know you can hear us. Joe's got... Mr. Spears. You got a bright red. You got like a white. You got like a what is this? A stormtrooper headset on? What's going on?
it's a Bluetooth Steel Series headset.
All right, I like it. I'm gonna have to up my game here.
But
All right, we got a thumbs up from Justin Walker, so it looks like we're good. All right, this is I'm gonna tell you what, Rebel Nation, this is a different setup from what we're what we're used to seeing. Mr. Spears, tell me you are good today, my friend. Tell me you're good.
I am.
What? You're cutting out though. So tell me you're good on your brand new Bluetooth headset. Oh, now I can't hear you at all, but I can see you. And you're about this big. I can see you. You're about this big in my. Maybe if I turn it this way. Let's see. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is that better?
There you go. There you go. I can hear you. Restoration Rebel Nation. This is a not what we're used to. This is not common.
This is an
Uh,
unofficial roundtable, okay?
this is an unofficial roundtable. I'm trying to get myself centered. There we go. Trying to get myself centered. If I turn this way, no, turn this way. There. Oh, wow. So talk to me, Joe. Talk to me. How is life? How and what is going on, my friend?
Life is good. I keep myself busy. I've been helping out a few of our members lately, and then I've also with some people that you might know over at uh, um,
Yeah, I'm not hearing your headset at all. It's in, it's out, it's yeah. Oh, now he's throwing it down. He's throwing it down. We are throwing it down here, folks. Yeah, I've never tried to play with this on a phone. I've always been on a desktop. I've always been. Yeah, we are not gonna be awesome today. I'm telling you right now. There should be an app for this. You would think.
all right, can you hear me now? I love when everything falls apart. Did we lose Andy? I guess I gotta zoom back here now for this. What's up, everybody? If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Somebody. All right, so while we wait for Mr. Andy, we're going to figure out what's going on. And all we're going to go through a little bit of some of the stuff we normally go through. So I'm going to try my best to remember this because I don't normally host.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Some bitch. Yes, I can. You are about 1/4 of an inch tall, and so am I, and we're gonna roll with it. We're gonna roll with it. Looks like we got Mr. Mr. Dunphy from I don't know where he's from. Victoria Smith, yes. Justin Walker, yes. Andy Bro, yes. Mr. Phildo 64, yes. What's up, Joe?
Not
All right.
much.
I'm gonna pour myself a drink because nothing else is working today.
Yay. Let's go. All right, well, real quick, before you just have a drink and you forget the words, let's go through the round table or the restoration rules. Come on, you know them by heart.
Okay, I'm gonna do the rough version. All right. Restoration Rebel rules. The
Agreement.
agreements. The agreements. Here we go. I as a rebel, I will be I will practice incredible transparency. I will not hide data or information or reports from my client or or the adjusters. I will be an active member of my community, right? I will. I believe that as a group, as a member of the Restoration Rebel community, we have an obligation to be to help each other and to communicate. Joe, help me out here.
I
I
will
am
practice it.
struggling today.
We are transparent. We do
Oh,
not
yes.
or lessen our services by offering free services.
Oh, yes. There it is. There it is.
Guys, we work together. We, even though we are competitors, we're still a family, and it's us against the carriers. And offering free services just lessens our industry as a whole by when you give in.
There it is. There it is.
There, end the snapshot.
And oh man, some days, I know you guys know, some days just fall apart right from the get. And today was one of those days for me. So let's so tomorrow I'm going live with Stephen Badger and Mitch Byram. Stephen Badger is a premier defense attorney for insurance carriers. And 2 weeks ago, I had an interaction with him on LinkedIn where I said, "Hey, we are getting offered 50 cents on a dollar, 50 cents on a dollar for mitigation services rendered routinely." And then I proceeded to put out this survey. Joe, do you see the survey?
Yes,
You
I did.
saw them? Okay. And almost 100 people have responded to that survey. 100 restoration contractors have responded to that survey, just giving the facts. And the facts are, we are, as an industry, so far as the facts have shown us, carriers are routinely seeing our invoices and saying, we will give you 50 cents on a dollar. That's their initial. Mr. Fieldo64 says, "You're not my mom." Okay, whatever that means. Uh, we are routinely getting 50 cents on a dollar for, offered first glance, um, for the invoices for the services we rendered. I know, Joe, this does not jive with what you're seeing in your market. But in your experience, how does that data jive with you?
I mean, I feel I mean, I don't know if I necessarily would say it's 50 cents on the dollar, but it is a substantial difference. I'm working on one file right now where the contractor wrote it and it came out to like $10,000. Now, granted, I will say this contractor, he didn't use Xactimate in quite the right way and all.
Mm.
And the adjuster's coming back and trying to give him cut him down to like $6,600. I rewrote the estimate and I wrote it the right way. And I came in at $400 less than him, which is in all. But this adjuster is still saying, he's like, I will not. He's like, the most I'm willing to concede on this file is $7,400. I will not go a dollar higher. And I'm going to be like, well, argue with this version of that file now, and let's see you argue with me on it. And it is I mean, it's not. I like to live in unicorns and puppy dogs and everything else, and believe that everybody has a little inside voice that tells them what they shouldn't do and all. And they try to be good, but it is a pandemic across the industry wide where a lot of the adjusters, desk adjusters, IA adjusters that are coming in have 3 weeks, 6 months, less than 5 years of experience from the computer screen doing this job and have zero experience in the field doing this job. And the insurance companies are setting them up to make sure that they are not properly trained in Xactimate, that they don't have really any experience in the field. So that way when they are undercutting or if they're under evaluating a file, they don't realize it.
They don't know. Yeah. Right. They only know that what they're told, right? So they're told to look at the data, evaluate a file in a certain way, and given the framework that they're told to work within, of course they're coming in at 50 cents on a dollar,
Well, and it's
right?
also, I mean, it's also, it doesn't matter anymore nowadays if we're on a TPA or you're not a TPA. You're still, every single person is being viewed, judged, and third party reviewed by TPAs. And I mean, there's no point. The only reason to sign up a TPA at this point is because they're going to feed you work. And that's it, because you're still going to have to screw around with them every time. And that's not right. That's not, they won't, if the carriers wanted us to abide by certain guidelines and try to work with our side of the industry, they would publish publicly, easily to find online, hey, these are the rules that we would like you guys to abide by and stuff. Do you agree to these rules before you start to work on one of our claims? Which, I mean, granted, they don't have a right to say what we do in our business, but they don't even, it's like playing poker in the dark. You have no clue what you're doing because they're like, oh, well, we're not allowed to do that. Who says you're not allowed? Well, it's our carrier guidelines.
Who
Can
says?
I see a copy of these guidelines?
Exactly right.
I truly feel like a vast majority of the quote unquote carrier guidelines that we get are cooler talk from hearing from the older people. They're like, yeah, we don't pay for that shit. And the newer people are like, okay, because they don't know any better.
The first, excuse me, man, I got the hiccups. The first question I always ask is, can I see a copy of those guidelines? When you say, per my guidelines, I can't pay for XYZ, good God. My apologies. The first question I ask is, all right, if you're asking me to abide by these guidelines, can I get a copy of those guidelines? Can I please see what the rules of engagement are? Good God, I'm hiccuping. Oof. So Joe, how many copies of these guidelines have you seen?
I mean, the last times I've been able to see guidelines have been when I worked at a company that was an actual TPA outfit, and I could pull the guidelines out of Xactanalysis. But those are the TPA guidelines. The carrier guidelines themselves are still not published publicly. So you got the carrier guidelines, and then whoever they send it off to, that third party associate, you got their guidelines as well. And I mean,
wait a minute. Wait, are you saying there's the carrier guidelines, and then there's another layer of guidelines on top of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's certain guidelines. Like I've got one of our rebels. He's on Contractor Connection, and he's read the book, and he even highlighted and has argued in the guidelines. It does not say you are prohibited from changing labor trades, which is the proper use of Xactimate. It says you're not prohibited. You just need to have it notated for the adjuster.
Oh.
But even when he sends it over to Contractor Connection, the third party, the reviewers say, well, we can't approve this file. The adjuster has to approve it, and then they kick it back and say, hey, change it. Like you're fighting two different battles at the same time, and you don't even realize it half the time.
Wait, so you are and I wish I was on my desktop right now because I could highlight this comment right here.
You're highlighting it right now. It's popping up. Nice and big.
I am? Yep. Oh, okay. Now I've learned something new today. So it's in the SLA standard that they give you when you sign up.
But we're not signing up.
Exactly right, Joe. Exactly right. All right, expand on that.
Literally, how many of you guys have been sent to Ward Law to fast response review? Have gotten a Code Blue representative to review a file, and you're not a member of any third-party association. You're not a member of any of those partners, but you're still being forced to run through them because that's who the carrier is assigning to review their files. I mean, it's literally joining a TPA nowadays just gets you to have them send you the work over directly. That's it.
Oh my God, I'm hiccuping Yeah, excuse me, folks. Excuse me. Oof.
Too much whiskey today.
This what? Tell you what. This is water. This is.
That's vodka, my friend. I know vodka when I see it. But it is. I mean, it like, it's one of those things where, I've gotten to the point where my very first comment to an adjuster when I talk to him is, are we here to discuss scope or are we here to discuss price? Because if you want to discuss, if you don't like the price, if you don't have a problem with the scope outlined in here and it's just the price that you're like, I'm not paying that, there's a process for you to invoke called appraisal. Otherwise,
yes,
kick rocks. But if you want to talk the scope that I have outlined, talk to me about what issues you have with my scope. And if the price changes because I input the wrong size, indirect fire furnace, or if I put in the wrong amount, I put in, too many square feet per floor.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the wrong size equipment. Okay, so I get this on the daily, right? I get these word law. What fast team? What's a fast team? FAST, whatever they're called. I get all these guys send back. You use the wrong size dehumidifier. Okay, where does that come from?
The simplified DH calculation from within the S500 that states volume divided by class. So 100 for class 1, 50 for class 2.
But wait, Joe. Is it in the S500?
Yep.
Or is it in the addendum to the S500?
I mean, I have it. So I have it saved within my Xactimate, the page and everything. It's on there.
It's in the addendum. So it's not actually in the standard to the S500, but we're being asked to run the entire job from day 1 to day 10 or wherever it is. We're being asked to run the entire job by a calculation that's recommended in the appendix to the S500. And the S500 states that this calculation is only good for day 1 of the loss. Right? It's up to the restorer, the professional restorer, to make the determination of the proper dehumidification and air movement and whatever else standard. It's up to the restorer to make the calculation on a daily basis and make the adjustments on a daily basis to the amount of equipment that they use.
Well, I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. And what's funny is I actually had this conversation today with some people. There's 2 ways to view it, guys. First and foremost, everyone watching, I challenge you. Find a commercial grade, not a consumer grade, but a commercial grade dehumidifier on the market that performs under 70 ppds. It does not exist.
Does not exist.
You should only ever be charging larges or extra larges because nobody buys the extra large, first off.
Right.
I mean, no one does. So large and extra large. Now, that being said, I mean, I can see both sides of it. I only invested in extra large dehumidifiers. I'm going to bill for what I have because that's what I'm renting out. It's a fair argument. Hey, if all I have are screws, I'm going to bill you to screw in the drywall. I'm not going to charge you for gluing it on, kind of mentality. But I also do see the flip side, the counter argument, which is like, I always use a car rental. I put in a reservation to rent a 4-door sedan because that's what I needed. I get there to pick up my car and they're all out of sedans. All they have is a small or mid-size SUV. They're going to upgrade me to that size they have at no extra charge because it's all they had. At the end of the day, though, there is no labor. There is no material cost in a dehumidifier in any of our equipment rental rates.
I agree.
Realistically, it's just, I mean, 7 4-day jobs will pay off an extra large dehumidifier. And you're going to have it for 5-6 years, if not more. Like, I'm not a big
7 days of rental will pay it off. Yes.
4 days, 7 4-day jobs. So 24 days of rental pays it off in full. And then it's 90%.
So 28 days. 28 days of rental will pay for. After 28 days, you own that piece of equipment.
Now you still obviously have some minor overhead related to that equipment for
Well,
maintenance.
you've got planting that equipment, you've got maintaining that equipment, you got cleaning that equipment, you got storing that equipment. But yes.
So I mean, it's not 100% profit, but you know, at the end of the day, if I said all the equipment for what I have extra large, which is let's say $150 a day, and the insurance wants to balk at me and say I only want to pay $100, realistically, that's the least of my concerns. I'm not going to lose that much money on a job for just downgrading my dehumidifiers. It's a hill that
I don't disagree. The argument between an extra large or double X and an XL or a large, that's if we get ourselves stuck in those kind of arguments, we've already lost, right? Yeah, I will concede. I will not even argue that shit. Yeah, keep going.
But you know, at the same time, everyone gets so focused on that like they're like, I'm not, this is a hill I'm going to die on. We had extra larges. And then they end up conceding on things that like that you shouldn't be conceding on. And, you know, a vast majority, I hate saying it like this here because you guys all know I am for the contractor. I am not on the carrier side. I'm not a scab. I'm not here to, you know, but I would, from in the last 3 years of doing this as a remote third-party estimator, this is what I will tell every single person. 90% of the kickback, the negotiations, the issues that you guys are having with your files falls down to two things. And that is the first one, which is the most important. Your processes and procedures, your documentation. I had a job the other day where they charged PPE. It was category 3. Obviously, and it was in a crawl space. Obviously, they wore PPE. No one's going to get down to a category 3 crawl space without PPE on. But all the photos they had like 12 photos in the photo packet upstairs in the kitchen where they had taken the cabinets out at. And all the people were just in normal street clothes, jeans, and had some work gloves on, no respirators or nothing. And
that's on them.
And the judge was like, I'm not going to pay you for PPE when the only photos I have to validate that you wore PPE shows you didn't. Like, how can I, I can't approve it. You know, the amount of people that want to charge for, monitoring and they're not being realistic, the job's only 30 minutes away and it's 1 DHU and 3 air movers and you've got 2 people out there and you charge a minimum of 2 hours per day for monitoring. And you're out there for like 7 days, like that's excessive. Like,
yeah, I can't disagree with that, and that's where I'm of two minds of that, Joe. Yeah, my first mind is the plumber. The plumber's not in a position to justify their bill. The plumber doesn't have to justify this shit. The plumber sends a bill and he gets paid, right? That's one side. The other side is. We should, if we're going to bill for something, we should be able to prove it. Yes, exactly what you said. We should be able to prove it. If we're charging for personal protective equipment, we should be able to show that we use that personal protective equipment. And that's where I think this industry has gone a little bit awry in that we've confused two things. We've confused what we can do with what we actually did. And that's where too many people in our side, right? Too many contractors on our side have said, well, I can charge for something. Therefore, I am charging for something versus I actually fucking did something. And that's a problem.
A great example of that was this one job I did, I think last spring, where I went out there to do a review of it and all for my friend. And the company had charged for extraction hearts are or carpet or extraction of carpet and then removal of carpet. And the homeowner's like, they never came in and extracted nothing. And when I talked to the company, they said, well, we pulled the pad out and bagged it up while it was still dripping wet. So the water went with the carpet. So technically we extracted it. And it's like, no, that's not how this works.
Motherfucker.
The homeowner bought an LGR, a Phoenix R200 LGR from some bankruptcy. I don't know what, because they had remodeled their basement. They were told it would help dry the drywall faster.
Sure.
And they told this client, hey, well, since these are down here, you guys can just use this one here and I'll save your back pain from having to carry one down the staircase. And the contractor charged the homeowner for using their own DHU because they said, well, if we hadn't used yours, we'd have brought our own down. And it's like, there's people other that do this shit, which most rebels, I would say, probably don't do stupid choices like that.
Yeah, but that's also why we can't have nice things, people.
It's also why the TPA started, to prevent people from doing that shit. Justin, to your comment there on the equipment, you say you always get kickbacks on the equipment monitoring. I charge it very simply. I put in my F9 note. Time, X amount of hours times this many days, travel to job site. X amount of hours times this many days, monitoring. X pieces of equipment times, I do 0.25. I do 15 minutes per piece of equipment to account for setup, takedown, blah, 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 blah. And I get it paid. It's not a problem. The thing is, though, is when you are doing a large amount, if you get a large number on there, if you're not providing an F9 explanation, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, there's some asshole adjusters out there that just want to screw you over because they think they're God and it's their money. But for the most part, a lot of adjusters, they just don't have a good enough explanation or justification for some of these charges because they don't have the photos. There's no notation stating why did you need to charge an extra, 20. I had one client, they put 22 hours of job site supervision on their job for a job that literally was 2 days of demo and then like 4 days of monitoring. Why'd you need 22 hours of supervision out there with no F9 note to explain it? Like,
I will tell you that despite the fact that I don't want to agree with you, you are 100% correct. We are generating some of the friction that we're seeing. We as an industry are generating some of the pushback that we're seeing. And that's because we are charging for things. We are putting things on our invoices that we didn't fucking actually do. And so if we can send a message today via this platform right here today, if you didn't do it, motherfucker, don't charge for it. Don't put it on your invoice. Bro, if you didn't do it, it doesn't mean, I've heard 100,000, I've heard a lot of times. I've heard, well, I can charge for it. I don't give a fuck what you can charge for. I care what you actually did, people. And when you charge for things you didn't actually do, you are making everyone's life harder. People, am I right?
You're absolutely right. But I'm not saying that it's all just contractors not following line. It is a big one. Like, I'll put it this way here. Every contractor that I've interacted with over the last 3 years, I guarantee you, I have found at least 5 to 10 things that I'm like, hey, either you guys aren't documenting well enough, or if you guys did document this here, it's a billable thing. And it's never been, the managers all get it. It's the implication and getting the face. Remember, everybody, the face of your company is not the manager. It's not anyone in the office. It's the water techs. They're the ones that interact with the homeowners all the time. And it's getting those people to do what they have to do. And when most managers have been doing this 7, 8, 10 years, they know what needs to be done. But then you get, Larry and Curly over here who've been here for 6 months and they have no clue what they're doing. Like, that's where, you got to hold them accountable. And it does suck because for most contractors, what are you going to do? Get rid of them? You're already hurting for labor as it is because they keep coming in and out real quick.
Yes, you are.
It's a pain. And
yeah, 100%. We have to hold the standard. We have to, whether we like it or not, we're responsible for all the bullshit artists out there. We're responsible for we have to. There's a reason we have to document things above and beyond what's reasonable. I would argue, when's you have any contractor, any electrician, any plumber, any carpenter into your house to do anything, what are you going to ask for documentation of what they actually did? The documentation is going to be what they fucking actually did. But no, that's not what the restoration industry has to deal with. The restoration industry has to deal with, hey, we have to justify not only actually what we did, but we have to show how that what we did adheres to the standard that we adhere to, which is the S500, the S5200, or whatever it is, the independent, the international building standard or whatever else. The unfortunate reality is we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard than normal, and that should be okay, because we are capable of doing that. We have the technology.
And nobody, I know that me and Andy are both Xactimate, train blowers.
But it has nothing to do with an Xactimate.
But it doesn't have anything. Nobody requires anyone to use Xactimate. It makes life easier. But I know hundreds of companies that don't use Xactimate, and they are still in business.
Yes.
One of the biggest issues is that the second issue, besides your policies and procedures in the field for your water technicians, is that in-house, you're getting people that, oh, yeah, I know how to use Xactimate. I've done it for 2 or 3 years. I know what I'm doing. They're self-trained, and they don't actually know what they're doing. They've never taken an actual class. And because business, 90%, I'd say easily 90% of restoration companies, the company itself lives paycheck to paycheck just as much as its employees do.
Yes.
And nobody has time to send these people off to get properly trained. I've never seen somebody with, I don't care how much experience you have, go to an actual Xactimate training class and not learn at least 1 or 2 things new. And, it is like, I'm friends with an ex-CT, and I was talking to them this week. They're a trainer, and I showed them 3 things they didn't know you could do in Xactimate.
What? Yeah. What? All right. Yeah. What are those 3 things? Educate me.
The first one had to do with, it was simple stuff. The first one is straightening up your sketch when you get it from Eagle View by putting on the exterior tab. The second one was adding a second sketch folder and then deleting it so you can use the sketch 1 folder to calculate your total volume of air for all floors of the house. And then
say that again slowly. What?
So if you have say you have a house that has 3 stories on it.
Okay.
And then you have, when you go into the tree, you see main level rooms, second level rooms.
Three different folders. Yes.
If you go back into the sketch side and down the bottom where it says sketch 1, if you click and add sketch 2 and then immediately delete it, main level, second level, third level, whatever it is, they all get put into a new sketch 1 folder. And then that sketch 1 folder will actually calculate total square footage of floors and total volume. So if you're, and I think, that's one of the things also, these TPAs, they're not, because people aren't properly notating the file. Well, on day 1, we get there, all the walls are in place. So we've got 3 or 4 different drying chambers going on while we're demoing this one out and this one out. So we need 2 dehumidifiers right now. But then after everything's demoed out and it's all flood cut, well, now you got to reassess your measurements and figure out how much dehumidification you need. And maybe you only need the 1 dehu now because it's free flowing. And the carriers are judging us based on that post-demo work being done as, hey, this has all been flood cut. This is all you needed. And no one's notating the file. Well, we did have it. Or it was. When you got the carpet floating and, it's about that high up off the ground there's absolutely 100%. Overset your dehumidification for 24 hours because you're not going to cut that drywall out when it's all muddy and falling apart. You're going to let it dry up just a little bit so you can demo it properly. We set two, this job needed only 2 dehues. We set a total of 3 for 24 hours to bring down the bulk moisture of the humidity level, and then we removed it and we continued on with the proper drying equipment. Notate it, you'll get it taken care of, but most people are not notating their reasonings behind things, and they're just like,
right.
well, we used 3, that's what we used.
Exactly right. Yeah. If you don't really have documentation of mitigation activities, that's on you, bro. That's on you. You need to up your game. You really need. There's no excuse anymore. There's apps out there for that. There's Restoration OS. There's Encircle. There's, I don't know if Albi does moisture shit. But there's apps for that. And if you are just saying, hey, well, I don't have documentation because I didn't take the documentation, guess what? That's on you. There's no excuse anymore. There is plenty of opportunity out there for you to do the proper job of documenting your loss and documenting moisture conditions and documenting XYZ. There is no excuse anymore. You can't hide behind the fact that hey, we just didn't do it, or we did it a different way. We are held to a higher standard, whether we like it or not. We are held to a higher standard.
Will Cox here made a comment. He's like, TPA say they don't pay for heavy extraction. I would say, yeah, they do. They do it all the time.
Yeah, they do.
You just
every time
day. You extract your wand, it's forward and backwards. That's what carpet cleaning class. That's a single pass. You end up making little mountain peaks on the carpet if you're extracting it, regardless. I extracted the carpet. You can even if it's fully flooded, you're still going to see that pile directional showing that it was passed over at least once.
Yep.
Take pictures and have it labeled, post first extraction, extract it again, and you can prove it. But most people are just like, oh, I had to do it twice. Why? Like, prove it. Like, prove that it was needed. They want it. Some people want to extract the carpet, pull the carpet, extract the pad, pull the pad, extract the hard surface. I can get that paid all day long if you show me a picture of the wand on the carpet removed, the pad on the carpet, the wand on the pad, pad removed, and water still on the hard surface, and a hard surface wand on the ground.
Yeah, there's no. This is reality. We are in an industry which has an incredible amount of oversight, an incredible amount of prove what you did, and that's just the reality of it. We have to accept that. We have to accept that we are held to a higher standard of documentation. We are held to a higher standard of reporting, because we have billion or trillion dollar companies looking over our shoulders, forcing us to justify our bills. Yeah,
the insurance carriers have the only clients that matter to the insurance company is they have they have a legal responsibility to cover losses, but they have a fiduciary responsibility to show a profit for their shareholders.
That's it.
And
that's it.
And at the end of the day, they will get in more trouble for not showing a profit than they will for not paying out Miss Smith and Mr. James's house.
Plain and simple.
It's it's in their interest to cut your bills down. And if you're not investing in, programs, or, even if you're doing it yourself on pen and paper, that's great. And you're using company cam. If you're not documenting it correctly, though, you're just going to end up saying blah.
All right, Joe, let's okay. Well, okay, Wilcox just put another comment on top of this one. Okay, let's talk about this comment here. I'm gonna try to read it. Check out Clean Claims. Lane software is the up and coming. Let's be real. Lane's been around for a while. It's not up and coming, but it's legit. I'm not going to take anything away from Lane. There are others like Encircle and Micah, but I like Clean Claims because of the accountability measures. Blah, 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 blah. But you're right. There's zero excuse. Yeah. Okay. So Um, well, let's give a comment because we are rebels and we can. Joe, do you have an opinion on clean claims?
I've not used Clean Claims. I've used Encircle. I've used Mika.
Okay.
I've used Rocket Plan. I've used Dash, and I've used what's the other big one? Albiware. I mean, I've just never got
Albie. Okay. Well, I will say, Lane, if you're watching, if you're going to hear this, I like what I'm seeing. I too have not had direct experience with clean claims, but I like from the outside, I like where it's going. And where it's going is let's just leave no fucking doubt about what we fucking did, right? You know, if we're going to be held under a microscope, let's just do it. Let's accept it. Let's just play that role. And I don't have a problem with, hey, if you're going to make me prove that I did what I said I did, fine. Here's the proof. The people that have a problem with a clean claims environment are those people who don't do what they say they're doing. They're the people that are saying we're going to charge for XYZ, but we're not necessarily going to prove that we did
And we're not, and
XYZ.
I'm not going to let Andy and me. I'm going to tell you right now. Me and Andy are not saying that that people are trying to be criminal or that they're doing it with malice. There's a lot of people though that grew up older than in our older generation. I mean, when we were coming up, Andy could attest to this here.
Older, yeah, that's me.
It was a different environment, and you didn't have to. You wrote your files out, and that everyone was pretty happy. You didn't have to have a photo of every piece of PPE and everything that was being done. And some of these people, those habits have trickled down, and they've never learned to accept the new ways and the new technologies and all. And they're just behind the times. It's no different than me giving my dad a smart TV, and he's like, "How do I work this thing?" Like, it's a TV; it works just the same. But he doesn't get it. And I do feel like there is a large amount of contractors out there that they enter the field from the general contracting side. They were, consumer sales roofers, and then they enter it into the insurance world. They're not used to having to document the way we do and restoration. And I was talking to somebody, who was it the other day? I was talking to them the other day. Even though we're all in the same industry, guys, like, each industry is still separate. Like, as a restoration contractor, I would never do any repair work unless I have the estimate pre-approved. Period. I ain't gonna start shit until I have a scope of work assigned and I can have my clients $100. Roofers, though, on the other hand, they're going to take the insurance funds and go ahead and do the roof and then supplement for afterward. And they're going to say, fight it to the nail to try to get as much as they can. They don't have the time they don't have the time because roof seasons, are only so long in areas to wait for that approval. Or another roofer will come by and say, I'll just do it and I'll supplement and get it done for you now. And the client doesn't have to wait.
Yeah, I would argue that roofers are giving restorers a bad name. Roofers, in the way that a lot of them, I won't say all of them, but a lot of them are going about the way that they do. If you're willing to go do the job and accept that money, right? You're going to accept that ACV payment, whatever else. You're going to go do the work and accept that money. I don't think you're owed anything else. Period. End of story. And I will arm wrestle any motherfucker who challenged me on that, because you did the work, bro. You took the money, you did the work, and now you're trying to submit a supplement saying it cost me more. No, it did not, bro. It did not cost you more.
Okay, in some aspects I agree, in some aspects I won't. This is what I'll say. If you're doing, especially if you're a roofer, if there's things that you cannot estimate for a fact and know before you get the roof off, if the decking is bad, if the flashing needs to be replaced, that's fine.
That's 5%.
But if you're going in, if you're going in and Like, yeah, the adjuster left off like all this money and stuff. I'll worry about it later. Your contract amount should be, your contract's not valid. There's no,
Yes.
if I was your homeowner, I'd say, like, that's all you're getting. You didn't have me sign a change order, and I'd walk away with some money. On a mitigation side, I hear people all the time, oh, homeowner wanted an estimate. I can't give them an estimate because there's too many factors. Bullshit.
No, there ain't. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Exactly.
You estimate for worst case scenario. I figure this is going to be we're going to estimate for a 5-day dry out.
Yep.
I know that it's an exterior wall. I'm going to estimate to pull the insulation out. I'm at $10,000. If we can come in under budget, great. But worst case scenario, this is what I'm looking at here. And barring any like massive amount of bold growth, or I find a dead body in your chamber, like this scenario, this is where you're going to be at. There's no reason, if you are a professional restoration contractor, you cannot give a very accurate worst case scenario estimate and say, I will happily. You know how happy homeowners are when you're like, I know I told you 10 grand, but you know what? We actually came in at 76. They're going to be like, oh shit. You're like, they're going to be happy. But when you come in you're like, oh, it's a 7, I'm going to say 7 grand. And then you come back and you tell the insurance company, oh, well, we billed the insurance company 10 grand. And you didn't get a change order like you would on a reconstruction file. Like your homeowner's like, wait, I thought you said it was 7 grand. Now you're telling me, well, because it's, that, it was 7 grand because you were going to pay out of pocket. But since you decided to go to the insurance company, we're going to bill them for the full amount.
Yeah. Since the insurance company's involved, we're going to go double. That is such horseshit. I see that every single day.
Yeah, Justin, they do have to send their estimates for a review as well.
They really do.
And but guys, the fact that not enough companies are using change orders on the mitigation side is ridiculous. Your contracts cannot state price per Xactimate pricing or pricing per insurance funds. If you go to court, the judge is going to say, well, the homeowner.
If they do, you're fucked.
If you go to court, the judge is going to say, homeowner doesn't know if it's $1, $10, $100, $1,000. How much is it? Therefore, they didn't sign a valid contract. You won't get your money. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, look, based on what if you want me to give you a worst case scenario estimate, or do you want me to give you a good ballpark? A ballpark? Okay. I'm thinking about an average water job in our industry is $5 grand. So let's set it up. Let's do a not to exceed $8 grand. And if for any reason I think that it's going to go over $8,000 during this demo, because my techs are going to report back to me, we'll stop. We'll keep the equipment, the dehues air scrubber stabilizing the job here. And I'll come out here and we'll reassess it. And I'll have you sign a change order that says, okay, well, due to these unforeseen circumstances, this job is now estimated to be between $8,000 and $12,000. Sign on the dotted line and we'll finish up. It's not like it's that hard to do. And at the end of the day, the final invoice price will be based off of Xactimate, but you make sure that you give that range where you're not, you're not.
I think a lot of people would do themselves a favor by not stating that it's going to be based off Xactimate. I think you should put together, and that's what I tell my clients. Let's put together a schedule of fees that's reflective of the services that you anticipate rendering, and whether or not that is based loosely on an Xactimate pricing database is irrelevant. You need to be able to tell your client up front, this is what our fee schedule is. This is what we charge for a dehu per day. This is what we charge for an air mover per day. This is what we charge for labor per day. You need to be able to charge, as a professional restorer, you need to be able to say with a straight face, this is our fee schedule. This is what we charge for the things we do. And I would argue, Joe, I would argue with you, I think most restorers would do themselves a favor with distancing themselves from the Xactimate database.
I know one guy right now. I don't know if it's a genius move or if it's pure madness, but I love it.
Okay, hit me. He
will write his estimate up in Xactimate. He will print off the customer total, which gives the single price at the end, and say, hey, I have a computer program. Pricing data is in there already. I just punch in the line item. Here's the scope of work. You can see all the work that we did. The computer said this is much money. Sign on the paperwork here. He hands them that. and then he sends, and then he has them, and then he has them sign off on the contract or whatever, and he's like, here, here's your final invoice for that price that you signed. And if the insurance company says, I need a breakdown of your work, there you go. There's a breakdown. Well, I need your pricing. My pricing is, what's the magic word? Because I'm actually brain farting here. It is
per my schedule of fees.
Well, my pricing is proprietary. This is the scope of work I did, and this is the invoice. And the homeowner signed a contract saying they agreed to this price. It doesn't matter if I take off 5 or 6 line items because you don't like what it said. The price is still this price. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of being proprietary, right? I'm not a huge fan of that.
But he's giving them a breakdown. He's giving them a breakdown of all the work that was done. He's just not giving them the pricing data on it.
Well, the pricing is per my schedule of fees. The pricing is per this schedule of fees that you signed on day one. And that's where a lot of folks are going, they're hanging themselves, but they're saying, whatever, heaven forbid, they still have a contract out there that says, and folks, listen to me when I say this. If you have a contract that says per insurance proceeds, you are fucking yourself.
I'm going to give you $5 for this job because you didn't give me any photos, Andrew.
Exactly. Per insurance proceeds.
What I told you I'd get. That's what the insurance funds are. $5. Deal with it.
Period. End of story. And you're fucked. You're that's it. And I got no. Yeah, I don't feel sorry for you. So you need to have a schedule of fees in place, and that schedule of fees need to be reflective of what you're actually going to charge.
And you should never you should never have. Hang on, how I want to say this. You should never out loud, even internally at the office, ever say we have a different price fee for self-pay jobs as compared to insurance.
Never, ever.
It's always the same price. Now, granted, Mr. Homeowner, I'll knock 20% off if you're going to pay. Since you're going to pay me cash, you're going to pay me within 48 hours of the job being done. I'll take 30%.
That's called an early pay discount.
But yes. You do not say, oh, well, if you're going to self-pay it, it's $5,000. And then halfway through the job, they go, okay, I decided to file an insurance claim. And then you bill $10,000. Like, you can't do that. Like, that is not good business. And some people might even view that as almost being fraudulent in your activities.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely fraudulent. All right, let's talk about my video tomorrow with Stephen Badger. All right, have you heard about this, Mr. Spears?
Yeah.
So, on LinkedIn, I've got a raving fan by the name of Stephen Badger, who happens to be a high-profile defense attorney who works for insurance carriers. And he jumped on one of my posts on LinkedIn. And if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, you should be. He jumped on one of my posts, and then we had some back and forth. And what I said was, I can give you 100 examples. I think I started with 10, but then I upped it to 100. 100 examples of where the carrier saw a invoice for services rendered and paid 50 cents on a dollar.
That's what you were saying earlier. So this podcast you're going to have tomorrow, I mean, you said he's the defense attorney for the carriers, right?
Yes, he is.
So the hope is for him to realize or is the hope that he's going to explain to us why they're giving us 50 cents on a dollar, or is it to hope for him open his eyes and say, oh shit, like we are in the wrong?
I have no hope. I do not hope for Stephen Badger to somehow see the light and come to Jesus on anything. But what my what my purpose is to show that there is a concerted, organized, intentional effort on behalf of carriers across the country to push down, influence claim severity in a negative way. In cases where the work has been done, the cost has been incurred, the invoice is due, but they're still trying to pay 50 cents on a dollar.
Well, and I mean,
Okay, Justin, I can send you the documents, but I need the email address.
he doesn't
Get
have faith.
on. Oh, he doesn't have Facebook. He's not on Facebook. All right,
We'll
Justin,
comment in
I
the
can't
chat.
help you.
No, we'll get Justin. We'll get it into the comments here in a minute. Here,
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is like I'm going to use roofing for an example here because
And this
makes the most sense.
Wilcox, this is tomorrow. I'm not sure if we can do it live. Byram with Restoration OS is hosting it. I'm not sure where it's going to be, but I will definitely be reposting the entirety of the video after it happens tomorrow morning.
But this is the best. I mean, I'm going to use roofing as an example so everybody can understand why it's one of the big mega issues we have in the industry is this here. Most people, and I think I'm not being any kind of derogatory when I say this. Most people, when they think of a roofers, they think of a group of usually Hispanics, maybe illegals or whatever, making, who knows what they make, getting up and tearing the roof off. And the insurance is like, oh, $450 a square is a fine price. You're making plenty of money on there. But then you got people like me. When I was doing roofing stuff, I would purposely go out and hire ex-journeymen. People that expected to be paid a certain amount, and my files had to address that value. I would be at $600 and I'd have to fight. Well, it's $450 is plenty of money. You don't need that money. And that's kind of the mentality that we have to fight, where these people assume that just because, empirical data shows that, people can get away with charging $450 and make a profit, that must be the norm. And it's not. I don't know how many times I've done a water job. I'm sure you guys know that I know my shit well enough that when I go out and do a water job, it's to the goddamn book. Like there ain't no questions on what I do. And I get told, oh, well, that's just not typical in your area for the work being done.
Typical in your area. And that's where I'm at, Joe.
Typical or not. I don't give a fuck if it's typical or not. Is it per the book? Is it per what the standard says? Yep. Okay, then shut the fuck up and pay me.
Well, here's the deal, Joe, is typical is so fucking wavy, right? Who gives up? What is typical? Define your goddamn terms, Mr. Adjuster, because that's what Stephen Badger came with was, well, that's just not standard. Well, and then I was like, well, fuck, I'll show you the goddamn standard. I'm gonna go get people to give me actual data on it. And Rebels, bless you for following that link. And if you're on the Restoration Rebel page, you've found that link and you can submit your own job. I've got over 100 restorers. They gave me over 100 different jobs where they did the work, they did the mitigation work, they submitted the invoice, and the carrier paid less than 50% of that valid invoice. And so tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, 8:00 Pacific is when I'm gonna have to do this interview. Is tomorrow I'm gonna go with Stephen Badger and say, hey, bro, here's 100 jobs. 100 jobs from, it's not quite 100 contractors, it's probably 75 contractors. 75 contractors submitted 100 jobs to carriers, valid invoices for work that was actually performed, that was paid subsequent to the submittal of that invoice, less than half. That's a problem.
Well, you guys, I know you guys all think, oh, this is a problem that just us freelance companies all have. It's not. One of our rebels in the group is the head estimator for a surf pro that I know here in Indiana. And
Yep.
this person had like a year and a half experience, and they kicked ass and learned the standard of care. They learned it all and started implementing the standard of care in the S500 states that if you're going to, on a category 1 or 2 job, if you're going to save the carpet before you initiate the drying process, you should clean the hot water extract, clean the carpet. So that way there, any particulates that are in the fibers and down in the stuff don't dry up, become aerosolized, and spread through the house and contaminate the house.
Okay.
That's in the standard, plain and simple. They're on TPA work, and they are charging for that, and they got told, well, no one carpet cleans on a water loss. Like that's ridiculous. We're not going to pay for that. And it's like, and they came back and they're like, I don't give a. It says in the book I'm supposed to. Just because no one else is following the standard doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means that everybody else is wrong, and I can prove it. But the carriers will go,
yes,
well, since it's not standard, we're not going to pay. That's why it's an average price in Xactimate, guys.
Standard.
Because some people are owed. If the default value comes out at $10,000, half the people are billing more than $10,000, and the other half of people are doing less than $10,000. That's why $10,000 is in the middle.
I'm gonna tell you right now, and this is not to you, Joe. This is to everyone else. When a carrier or an adjuster quotes that's not the standard is XYZ, they're fucking wrong. Because they're not quoting the standard, they're just quoting their experience. And their experience is this much of the actual market, right? The standard is not what they're quoting you. If they're going to quote a standard, you should force them. You should tell them, all right, what standard are you actually quoting? Show me the goddamn money, people.
Guys, if you looked at one of my mitigation files, like I said, detailed. When I quote my equipment monitoring charge, I have the exact quote from like Xactimate in there, and I detail it out. Not a big deal because I'm pulling Xactimate. I do clean studs. I have the quote. I have S500 section D page 145 and the quote copied into my F9 note. Boom.
Yes, sir.
And if you guys are doing that, if you're taking the time to save your notes and doing that so you can do it every job, the more questions and the more rebuttals that you can prevent from coming to your email because you've already answered it, the less kickback you're going to get. The vast majority of the time when you're getting kickback is because there is no explanation. Why did you do that? Well,
yep.
I've already answered it. I low pressure wash. It's straight in the book. However, low pressure rinsing of material, of salvageable components may be applicable. The wastewater from the low pressure rinsing should be collected and disposed of in a safe method. There's your clean and your second.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. That is per the standard. But there's also, what the fuck did you do? This is actually what I did, right? I don't have to, as a professional on site, the S500 gives us the leeway, gives us the room to make a professional judgment of what needs to actually happen, right? The S500 is a guideline, but the person and the professional on site has the ultimate say of what actually happens on that job site. And they can do something in their professional judgment that may not be called for in the standard, right? But it needs to be done because that's what needs to be done to get the job done. There's all kinds of room for variance beyond the standard.
A good example of that, I will say, is that when growing up in the industry, doing 4-inch flood cuts was everywhere. I mean, back in the early 2000s, 4-inch flood cuts was just everywhere. Everyone was just doing these small flood cuts. And then people realized
where are you going to patch it? Yeah.
Very quickly, they realized, drywall's cheap. And even though you might have to do more drywall work, overall, the amount of labor and time and requirements to do a 2-foot flood cut patch
You're
is
going to cut
better
up to
off
2
than
foot
doing a
anyway.
4-inch. Yeah, well, yeah, because 90% of people cut it at 20, at 4 inches or at 24 inches, and you got to.
What's the point?
Yeah, you got to. If you don't know, guys, a flood cut is not 2 foot. It's not 4 foot. It's 2 foot and a quarter of an inch because you have to leave a gap at the ground. You can't just set the drywall on the ground. And most subs or most water techs, that tape measure hits the ground, the subfloor. They measure up 2 foot and they go click and cut it across, and then you got to have a drywaller going in there having to cut everything down a quarter of an inch to leave a gap, and they're going to murder you.
It's a moot point because most drywall guys are going to go up to 4 foot anyway.
I mean, it's little stuff like that. They're like, insurance wants you to detach the baseboards. Okay, I'll detach baseboards, but there's not enough time and material within the charge line item for me to document which baseboards come out. And I guarantee you, I would say on average, at least 75, if not 80 or more % of the time, if you're detaching baseboards and leaving it on site, it's doing nothing because when repairs go in there, it's too much of a clusterfuck of a puzzle to figure out which baseboard went to which wall. And they're just going to put a new baseboard up anyways.
No one does that. No one does that. There's no baseboard in the land that's worth reusing. There just ain't. There's no way. I'm not reusing a baseboard. If I'm a professional finished carpenter, I'm not reusing a baseboard that was been through a water damage. Fuck no. I'm getting a new baseboard. Because it's gonna go on cleaner, it's gonna finish cleaner, and it's gonna look better.
The only justification I could ever come up with would be if you have like judge panels or solid wood baseboards. But I tell you right now, it's way easier for me to go out and buy a unstained piece of solid wood baseboard and stain it than it's going to be for me to take it outside, strip the stain off, smooth it out, and then restain it, sand it down for all where the old nails hole were at. Like, no, I'm just going to throw it away. Like,
hey, don't forget about filling the holes. Filling the holes and fixing the fuck ups, from the pry bar that pull it off the wall. So Joe, give me some advice. I'm sure we're gonna get some from the peanut gallery here. You guys feel free to comment here. I'll try to keep up. Going into tomorrow morning's conversation with the premier, let's call him the premier defense attorney for the insurance industry, talking about the reality that as an industry, we're getting paid, we're getting offered 50 cents on the dollar for mitigation work. What are some of the things I should say, or what are some of the things I should have in my mind going into that conversation?
Okay, number one best question you ask: why are adjusters if adjusters even caring to see the breakdown of the price on a file? Because because they should only be arguing scope of work, not pricing. Because if they don't like the price, you have a system in place already called appraisal to take care of pricing concerns. But they're trying to make us negotiate our bills and have a say so on what we bill for. How is that, as from a lawyer's standpoint? How is that legally ethical? Whatever. I don't know how you would word it for a lawyer because they talk like the devil. But I mean, seriously though, like. If I could, I would send over just a scope report to the adjuster and say, here's a scope report, review it. Do you have any issues with the line items? Nope. Okay. Well, I'll send the final invoice over based on those there. And that's my company's pricing for that numbers. I mean, that's how it should be. Why, if I can prove everything on my estimate was done, then the price itself should never be a question. Oh, well, it's above.
I agree.
None of your, doesn't matter. Who cares?
I agree.
You guys, like, I mean, it is. It's that simple. Why is it that when mitigation work is done before work and it's completed, but because the adjuster didn't get on site till later on, he feels the right that he can put the mortgage company write it as once they want us to write water and mold separate, contents and water separate, repairs and water separate, but they'll write it as water and repairs together, slap the mortgage company on there, and then make the contractor wait fucking 2 months for the mortgage company to finally quit fucking around and give us our money.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's so much there. You know, why is it that they can choose to have a third party review the files?
Well,
Why
here's what I anticipate. Here's what I think Badger's going to come back with.
No comment. No comment. No comment.
Well, no, I think he's going to actually be brave enough to comment. But I think he's going to come with the argument that they only owe for what's reasonable. And he's also going to say, we only owe what we believe is reasonable. And in my first stance is, hey, this work was done. This work was done according to a schedule of fees. It's hard to dispute what was actually done, and what the insurance company or the insurance adjuster believes should have been done is irrelevant. That's my argument.
If you don't think the scope is right, send it to appraisal. But the problem is the carriers don't want appraisal because they have to abide by the verdict of the appraisal. They want.
But how do you appraise work that's already been done?
Usually, I mean, the best way you could do it is kind of like the third parties, but you can't. But it has to be purely based on, if you're following the standard of care, that's what it's based on, because that's what we have access to. That's the question: is how can the carriers expect us to follow guidelines that they are not willing to share publicly with the entire industry?
Bingo. Right? How are we supposed to abide by these rules and standards that are constantly changing? How are we supposed to aim for goalposts that are always moving? And if we're supposed to abide by these rules and standards, why are these rules and standards not published anywhere?
I mean, my favorite one still to this day is my adjusters don't want to pay for taping only for paint jobs, because professional painters can cut in and they don't have to tape. That's not an argument there, because
that's not an yes, you know, I agree.
That's why the carriers don't pay for tape, guys, because it's their, it's why they don't pay for 2 coats of paint on a baseboard, because they expect you guys to buy the pre-stained baseboards that only need 1 coat of paint to go on there. So you don't need to stain, or you don't need to prime and paint it. You just need to paint it. And they don't want to pay. I have
never, in my experience, got a pre-finished or a pre-primed anything that didn't require 2 coats. Ever.
Why is it that the carriers only allow for 4 inches of blending a drywall patch on mud, when everybody knows that you at least have to blend it in 18 to 20, 18 inches or so?
Anytime an adjuster says you can blend it, I tell them, hey, be my guest. When can you show up? And when can you apply this texture? And when can you blend this for me? Because I, as a professional restorer, and as a professional repair project manager, have bought way too many ceilings, way too many paint jobs to believe that anyone consistently can blend texture.
I'll tell you right now, every time I write a file and all, I will happily estimate initially to blend the texture. I will happily do that. But I will texture it, and before I seal it and paint it, I stop what I'm doing and ask the homeowner.
I'm going to have the homeowner come in and tell me, how does this look to you, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith?
And we're not going to jack around and make it look bad. We will do our best to blend it.
We're going to do our best, yes.
But hey, can you still tell that there's a patch there? Yeah. Okay, let's get the adjuster on the phone and say, hey, we tried. It failed. and then we're going to scrape the whole ceiling down and all. Why not just do it from the start? Well, because sometimes the homeowner's like, yeah, it's good enough. That's what they're hoping for. That just like with the TPAs, guys, when Wardlaw contacts you, you have no responsibility to respond to them. They're hoping you will because they think you have to. And if 6 out of every 10 contractors talks to them and lowers their bill, they're making their peanut, and
they are justifying their existence. Yes. Yeah, and Andrew, I would say Badger's gonna try to argue the other side of this, but I'm gonna invite Mr. Badger to actually fucking do this goddamn work because he's a goddamn lawyer. He is not a technician. He is not certified. He is not a professional in our field.
Wanting everybody to use the default value of Xactimate is no different than telling everybody a hamburger in your city costs $3 because that's how there's more McDonald's than anything else in the city, and McDonald's sells a $3 hamburger. It doesn't matter. Oh, well, I went to Red Robin. You go to Red Robin's, they're not going to sell you one of their hamburgers for $3. You go to Ruth Chris, they're not going to sell you a hamburger for $3.
No, they're not.
And if I go to White Castle, I can get like 2 sliders for like $3. But the standard is $3. Or you can use the Coke argument. I can get a can of Coke out of a machine, 75 cents now. But if I go to Disney World, this can of Coke is going to cost me probably $2.
Yeah.
If I go to a rock concert, it's probably going to be $6.
Yep.
There's reasons why prices are different because of location and what you're doing and the reason why you're doing it. And just because Xactimate says it's $1.10 to paint a wall, well, if I'm in, I don't know, you think if I was going to Bill Gates' house and I told him it's $1.10 to paint the walls, he's going to be like, yeah, that's fine. No, he's going to be like, no, I expect a higher quality painter to come in here. People expect certain quality, and the insurance company wants to run it all as, well, this is what we should have to pay. Well, it might be what you should have to pay for a standard cookie cutter home by a contractor that has only 6 employees on staff total. But if I'm a large scale operation that has 30 employees and 2 satellite offices, I have a higher overhead as a company. My prices, by the very fact of how businesses work, is higher for that same work. If I'm living, now I will say this here. I'm going to put a little grain of salt and a little caveat there. One of my biggest fucking pet peeves in this industry is that if you are Bob and Tom working out of your garage and you are dead set, well, I see that, I saw Belfort did a job down the street here. It was almost 100% identical, and they charged like $8,000 for this. I should get $8,000 for it. No. Some people some people think just because you're in this industry that you should be getting paid a Ruth Chris price hamburger when you're running your own shop. No, you have to sometimes realize, some people, honest to God, your quality of work should probably be 20% less than the default price. Because, if I go into a home and I see nails sticking out, if I don't see straight lines and it's all beaver cut and you can see where they just popped it down, the drywall off, I don't care if you did follow the standard care and take out the right amount of drywall or not. It looks like shit. You don't deserve the same price that I would get for my job because I took the time to chalk my lines and nice straight cuts. And that's 100%. One of the biggest hindrances in our industry is that the little guys think they should be making just as much money as the big guys. And it makes the people that are doing the standard 100%, the people that are following everything they can and busting their ass to be the premier company. Well, they can't charge anymore because everyone else is trying to be the same price. It's a give and take. It's not all just one side. It's not all the carriers. We have our own responsibility as well.
Yep.
And if you cannot step back from your own business and say, what things could I be doing better to minimize these kickbacks and to make this process better, then you're adding to the problem more than you are helping it. Just bitching online doesn't get you anywhere if you're not honest with yourself and taking a step back and be like, yeah, my guys are not documenting. They're not taking enough the right photographs. Maybe you need to send them back to training. Maybe you're not, I mean, maybe it is. Maybe you're underpaying them and working them to death. And they're just like, screw this. And they don't have, there's no loyalty because they just feel like they're another number on the page and you need to incentivize them. Maybe, maybe your estimators are, maybe they are documenting everything and it's your estimators aren't using Xactimate right. Send them to a class. Like if you can't step back though and evaluate your own company, then I recommend honestly finding and joining a business network.
Yeah.
There's one I know that's called like BN 32, I think. There's a few others. Join a business network that's for restoration where you can think tank with other restoration companies and you guys trade off your files with each other and say, hey, or just make friends with people that are in your, at RIA and say, hey guys, like, hey, if I sent you guys over, $100 something, would you have one of your people review my file and tell me what they think? And get outside. If the only piece of data you have on you're not getting paid right is because the insurance won't pay for it, do some research and figure out if it really is the insurance being a hard ass and it's not.
Yeah.
The
data point of will insurance pay for it is a shitty data point. I don't care. As a professional restorer, I don't care what an insurance adjuster or an insurance company will pay for. That is irrelevant. What's it going to take to bring this building, bring this home, bring this room back to pre-loss condition? That's it. When we try to get into this, and that's where we have a, I'm going to say it because no one else will. We have a bottom feeder portion of our industry who is all about what can I get away with? What can I charge for? Mentality. What will the insurance pay? What will the insurance pay for? If that is your first, if that's part of your criteria for putting together bids or invoices, you're asking for it, right?
I want to
don't
believe
care.
that kind of mentality is a very, very, very minimal to a point where that shouldn't even be needing to be said. I want to believe that. I really do.
But we get it every day in this group. We do. What will insurance pay for? What can I charge for XYZ? That's the wrong goddamn question.
And guys, literally, like in the last year alone, I have met so many contractors that literally they bought a franchise and they've never done a day's work of mitigation in their life. And they're coming in here and they think they can, oh, well, I took the water class, so I know what I'm doing. No, I won't even send a water tech to water class until they've been here 6 months and they have the hands-on experience because they ain't going to understand a lick of that book on what's going on.
Yes.
And that's, it is. And just like with Xactimate, I had to talk with one person today. They had on their line item to detach a sink. That's to physically remove the sink from the countertop. That still leaves the supply lines and the P-trap hooked up to the wall.
P-trap, supply line,
and they're like,
two.
Well, I thought that. Well, I always got paid for that there because the sink's no longer in the bathroom. But you left the sink in the goddamn countertop, and you have it sitting on the side where the fucking drain valve is. It's sitting. The pressure's on that stopper valve, and it's still attached to the countertop, and it just sits in there in like an L shape. That is not detaching your sink. You don't charge for that. Take it out of the countertop. And they're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. And I'm like, yes, like that's how it is.
But that sink still has to get detached.
Well, that's your detach of the supply lines and P-trap because you're in all, but the sink itself is not detached.
Who detaches a P-trap?
I do every day. Every time I do
Wait.
it,
detaches and reset. You detach and reset the same
Not
P-trap.
Not reset it. I detach the supply line from the shutoff valve and from the faucet side. I detach the P-trap from the wall drain and from the bottom of the drain in the sink. And then I can pull the countertop up without detaching the sink itself from the countertop, moving it out to the garage. That's not detaching the sink. That's detaching the countertop. The sink just goes with you. If you take off the pressure screws underneath the sink that clamp it into place and separate the sink from the countertop, that's detaching the actual sink.
Yes. Okay.
And
I get behind that.
Most people don't understand that difference. You know, I mean, and it is. You guys have to realize, like, the stuff I charge for, people are like, really? You charge for that? Yes. Like, how many of you guys, I'd love to have a vote here. How many people have, Andrew, let's put it this way here. How many people do you think on a normal basis is charging to detach baseboard on a water loss? 100% of them, pretty much?
It's tough for me to say because they're calling for a detach, but what they really mean is they're tearing it out.
Let's just say, okay, let me rephrase that. How many people on a water loss are removing the baseboards from the affected area? Almost everyone, right?
I think a lot of them.
Okay.
And they're setting them aside, but the percentage of those baseboards that are actually reused is very, very small.
Okay, so everybody puts on their file, their invoice, WTR base or base B for the bags. Cool.
Sure.
We know that. How many people, you took the door off the hinges. How many people are, I'd say probably at least 70% of the people that are detaching doors are remembering to charge for the detaching of the door, right?
What do you mean?
Like if a water tech takes the door off the hinges, 70 to 80% of people that you've ever encountered would remember to charge for detaching the door, right?
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
How many people would you say in your mind that you've seen on your files are charging to detach the door stop, the little spring from the baseboard so they can set it to the side?
Zero.
In all.
Zero.
How many people would you say are remembering to charge to detach the ceiling mounted mechanical register vent so they can tear the drywall down?
Zero.
Like, those little things add up a whole lot. And people aren't, like I said, it's a pandemic across the board for everything. Like, some things we aren't estimating for correctly. Some people, they're like, well, this job should have been more. It took a lot more work. Did you estimate for everything correctly? No. I had a job where, it can be bullshit. Like, I had a fire job where solid core oak doors had to be detached. They weren't damaged. They got smoked perfectly fine to sand and refinish.
Okay.
I had to argue with the adjuster, though, that I needed to charge to detach and reset the hinges and the doorknobs because smoke gets inside the doorknob handles, and I had to clean it. And it's like, you guys, you're idiots. Like, how do you not understand this?
Maybe.
But it is. It's because most people don't have the hands-on experience of saying, "Oh, okay, that does make sense." How many of you guys?
So the adjuster was telling you it wasn't necessary?
Yeah, he's like, I didn't think it was necessary. Well, yeah, it is. I had an adjuster on a fire job. We demoed, we HEPA-vac'd, we cleaned the studs, and then we sealed the studs. And he said, well, we paid to seal it we paid to clean the studs and seal it. I don't see why we need to HEPA vacuum as well.
Ugh.
And it's like, you're just out of touch.
Well, they are out of touch. They don't have a fundamental understanding of what it takes to actually do the work that they're estimating for.
How many of you guys on the repair side, you charge to install a pre-hung door? A lot of people. How many of you are following that line up immediately with detach the slab and hinges for painting that door? Most people, they're not charging for that detach.
No, they're not. They're not.
In combination. How many of you guys charge for carpet and all, but you guys forget to leave off your transition strip or your T-bar? I mean, it is. It's just, you're doing, I don't know. Trying to think of some other ones. Are you sitting in a pool?
I just got in the hot tub. Yes,
That's gonna
I
help
did.
That's gonna help your whiskey buzz there. How many of you guys are billing for cabinets and bitching that you don't get enough for cabinets, but you didn't charge for the sliders, for the drawers. You're not charging for the freaking knobs, or you're not charging for the etched glass that goes on those cabinets.
What do you call that thing
the
that
Lazy Susan?
Not the Lazy Susan, but the thing that like there's a dead end of like a dead end cabinet, but they have the shelf that slides forward, right? That's not a Lazy Susan. It's something else. Yeah, there's 100 different things that contractors don't know that they can charge for.
I mean, there's a line, guys. There's a line item for cleaning and lubricating windows for operational. When you're doing a massive amount of demo at a job site, even if the windows are good, all that dust gets down in those cracks and it's going to fuck the windows up. You need to clean it out and then apply some new silica grease in there. 100%. There's a line item for that, and it's like stupid. It's like $100 a window. Like, it's a ridiculous price.
It's a lot.
Every time I've ever used it, the adjuster said, I never even knew that line item existed. Well, now you do. I don't know how many people I've seen not charge for mechanical wool when doing, taking your machine, your HVAC up through the second floor, or fire caulking if you have to have fire caulking.
Well, here's Justin Walker saying, since there's no real standard for fire restoration, the insurance will never pay.
I've got a consolidated copy of the S720 fire standard that's been in peer review.
We'll never pay for everything that is necessary. I'm going to push back on you, Justin. I don't think the carriers care, frankly, what the standard is. They really don't. The carrier's MO, the carrier's whole purpose in life is to determine how much can we pay the insured to make them go away. That is it. And that number is far south of what it's going to take to actually do the job right. Am I wrong? I mean, I would argue.
This is what I will say. This is what my argument will be here.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. Yes.
This is what my argument is.
Are you guys seeing this comments come up? I'm not used to this little interface here.
The upper echelon of the insurance companies do not care at all.
The upper echelons, none of them do. What are you talking about, Joe?
But your day-to-day adjusters, I know you probably think I'm living in fairy tale world. I truly and honestly believe that not all, but a vast majority of adjusters, it's not that they don't care. They just don't know, and they think they're right, and they're not willing to admit, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm wrong. I'll be wrong.
That's true. And I'm going to go with TT on this one. Greasing your windows. Come on. No one does that.
I mean, how many people,
I've never done that.
I mean, how many people install a new exterior door and they don't charge for a new threshold because it doesn't come with the exterior door, or they don't charge for the what's the insulation foam, the moisture foam that you put underneath the threshold? That's a separate line item. They don't charge for it.
That's true.
There's so many things that we miss out on these files, and then we're like, we overestimate on the things that we are confident on, and then we're not estimating for all these little knick-knack things that add up overall, and then we're shitty that we're not getting the right amount of money because, well, these all line items didn't add up to what we needed, so we try to make it work, and it's like, well, either learn new line items or stop estimating and just, here's my drywall bid, 20% added on. Here's my electrician bid, 20% added on, done.
All right, Joe. I'll go with you there. Okay, I'm going to take a bid. I'm a contractor. I'm a general contractor. I'm going to bid this entire job out. And I'm going to take whatever bid I get and add 20% to it, and that's
My
what I'm going to
daughter
get.
broke my blinds. How you gonna hate on my daughter? She wanted to see out the door window when there was, and all she broke them. Tweaker blind.
What? All right, I'm not going to go too far south here with the what. So you got a sub bid, and you're gonna add 10 and 10, which is standard. You're gonna make 16% gross profit. Is that enough?
Most contractors are gonna say, "Yeah, I guess. I don't know," because they don't have any clue.
And the smart contractors are gonna say no. I've got folks that I work with here locally that say they take every sub bid they get and mark it up 40%.
Guys, my cousin ran a mechanic shop for years. If the job was planned on taking an hour, they were going to bill the client for 2 hours of work. And if the part cost $100, you're going to be paid $100. You're going to be billed $140. There's a 40% markup and it was like, hang on, it was it might have been an hour and 60% of an hour or whatever, so 40 minutes.
Yep.
But remember, there's no markup on your materials in Xactimate right now.
Period. End of story.
Yeah. So
TT's got it right. 40% all day long.
So like
that's what my guy here tells me. Every sub bid 40%. Period. So if we're doing it 20%, we're losing 20%.
But what the insurance companies rely on is that, oh well, you estimated the drywall out to be $10,000 before overhead and profit. You had your overhead and profit on, so now you're at what, $12,000.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna, instead of giving the subcontractor billing you $10,000 and you make your 20%, you're still gonna go out and find a drywall that'll do it for $8,000, so you can make your 40%. And what all that does is that continues the vicious cycle of us not having high quality subcontractors anymore because they can't make a fucking living and earn an honest day's keep.
Yeah, I am more inclined to be just truthful about this is the price that I can get it done for, and this is my markup. Otherwise, we're just lying, and we're contributing to the problem of adjusters think we're liars, right?
I had a roofer last summer, good guy, really good guy in Texas there. He was a subcontractor for years. Him, his dad, and his like 3 brothers. It was a 5-man crew. He decided to go out on his own because he was wanting to make more money so his dad could retire. I was like, that's great. The first fire estimate I wrote, and I showed him the math on it and everything, it got approved 100%. He was super happy. But then he looked back at it and he realized that on this fire here, it was like, we got it for like $530 a square was, the whole roof altogether averaged out to $530 a square. And he's like, do you realize like
$530 is not bad.
It's not a bad price. He's like, do you realize like we as a subcontractor, our standard pricing was $150 a square for takeoff and installation labor. No materials being accounted for.
Labor only. Okay.
And he's like, these general contractors that we're working for, we're making fucking bank on our backs. And no one would tell us, oh, you guys could easily charge $200 a square and we'll still make fucking 50% margins. And he was aghast by how much, and that's that kind of mentality is not like unbeknown to the insurance companies. They realize that, and that's why they push so hard on minimizing these bills, because they realize shit like that's going on.
Right. And I would push back against, we're not in the business to do things that cost. We're contractors. We're here to make a profit. And yeah, I don't know, Joe. I'm of 2 minds about showing what my actual costs are. Right? Because if we're going to actual costs, we're going to be pushed to the bottom bidder, and it's going to be the Walmart model. And that's where I am so opposed to the Walmart model of restoration.
Well, that's like most. I've talked to adjusters. They're like, well, no, there's markup in Xactimate because every contractor has an LAR account at Lowe's, and at the end of the year, they get 10% back at the end of the year for everything they bought because they have an LAR account. That
But
doesn't
you
mean
can't assume that.
But
Yeah.
that's the mentality. It's like, well, they're getting kicked back, so they're not paying full price. That's not true.
Yeah, it's absolutely not true. And who are they to tell us what our true costs are? And what we have is, and I did a video earlier today, that we have a choice as an industry right now. We have, I figure we got 2 years, really 2 years, to make a difference. At the end of 2 years, if we don't do anything as an industry, as a concerted, as a whole, as if we don't do anything, 2 years from now, we're going to be all sucked up into a managed repair model, and we're going to be told truly, this is what you can charge, this is what you can do.
There are plenty of insurance policies right now being cut, guys, that state homeowner has the right to choose the repair person, but if the repair person, in a nutshell, it says homeowner can choose whatever contractor they want, but if that contractor is not willing to do it for what the insurance says the price is going to be, then the insurance has the right to hire their own contractor who will do it for that price. And there are thousands of people out there that need the work so bad that hey, we'll make it work, and we'll get, hey, 5% profit is still better than no percent profit because I didn't have a job. And they're going to, and that's what's going to end up happening is you're going to lose all the work.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And that's where I had Clark Brown on the phone last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't know, what do we do? Really? Do we fight this?
How do you fight it when they got tons of lobbyists up on the Hill encouraging them to make sure that we don't fight it?
The only way is to get our own lobbyists. That's really what it comes down to. And my question to the industry and my question to y'all is, what are you willing to do? Right? It's going to take, and I don't think it's the RIA, frankly. And, my apologies right now to everyone in the RIA who might see this message, but I don't think the RIA represents the independent restorer anymore. I think the RIA represents the moneyed restorer, the VC, or the venture capital backed restorer who is going to the Walmart model. I think that's who the RIA represents now. But who represents the real industry? I'm having a hard time right now.
Well, and that's the thing also is like, guys, like if you watch the news, if you watch it, people are, they're letting people work younger and younger in states. They're telling the outside construction crews in Texas that they don't need to take a water break no more, even though it's super fucking hot in Texas and shit. It would be a very, very easy thing. I mean, you might disagree with me here, Andy, but I could easily see them trying to pass it, make it a rule where, hey, you're an emergency service contractor, you're a 24-hour business, therefore there is no such thing as after hours. Like, you entered into the industry to do this work and respond to it whenever it comes in. There's no after, you need to be working 7, maybe after 5, yeah, but Saturday and Sunday is just another day in the business. There is no weekend after hour rates.
Well, I would almost invite that, because at that point we become an industry in our own right. And that way we become I forget the word for it, but there's a workers' comp standard, right? There's a standard. There's a workers' comp insurance rate for janitors versus contractors versus roofers versus stuff like that. I think it would behoove the industry to have a workers' comp rate for restoration. Right now we're not recognized as a discrete industry. We're just lumped in. We're lumped into either contractors or janitors. That's it. And until we
Still
get a
janitor cleans up
discrete,
vomit does not mean he's a restoration contractor. I'm sorry.
exactly right, exactly right. So until we get that differentiation of we are a discrete industry, um, yeah, I don't think anything meaningful happens. But I think that's the next step, and I think that's actually the step that carriers don't want to happen. Is because once we're recognized as an actual industry, discrete from janitorial and discrete from construction, um, we can't have these arguments. I really don't think we can.
Well, and I mean, it's just like, I mean, everybody, you know, I will say, in over the last 5 years, the overall amount of engagement and people learning to like use Xactimate has skyrocketed.
Yes.
It is so much better than it was. But why did Xactimate come into play? Because insurance companies got tired of paying QuickBooks and time and material estimates, and they wanted something that was going to save them money. Well, we've learned now to utilize the program, a lot of us have, to use it the correct way and to get our numbers where we need to be at. That's why now there's Symbility. And they're like,
right.
Screw Xactimate. Then Xactimate was the golden child, and all of a sudden it's like the redheaded stepchild, and they're like, it's all about Symbility now. I hate Symbility. I'm not gonna lie. I'll learn Symbility, and I'll when I get around to learning Symbility, you guys, I will teach everybody how to destroy a file in Symbility and make it have integrity and make it valid. But once enough people start using Symbility, they're going to find another program that they can use to try to minimize the cost. Because at the end of the day, all that matters to the carriers is we've got to make charts. I know a guy that was a traveler's adjuster, Andy. I don't know. I'm not going to say they still do this, but back when he was there, he straight told me his bonus, he would hit his bonus as an adjuster if he was averaging a 10% reduction over the initial submission at payout. That's all that he cared about. Take 10% off. I don't give a fuck what this file looks like. Take 10% off, and I can get my bonus. That's all that matters. Like they don't care about the quality. They don't care about return it to pre-loss. They care about saving a buck.
Yeah, that was JS Held's whole sale to the carrier world was we will reduce every claim by 20%. That was their pitch. Right? Are you hearing me all right? I think I dropped
you're fine.
I dropped the phone in the
No, you're fine.
drink here. So JSL came to the market and said, hey, hire us to be your third party consultant, and we'll reduce every claim by 20%. We'll reduce claim severity by 20%. And how do they do that? They start out by reducing every claim by 50% and forcing the contractor to fight up to what's reasonable.
I agree with that.
I mean, and that's we have. I said it earlier today, and I'll say it right now. We have a closing window as an industry to push back hard on this, and if I don't know how we push back hard without going to every single state insurance commissioner, every single state governor, and presenting our case.
And I think, I talked to Indiana State Insurance last year once, and I said, I asked him, I was like, I want to know, like, is it considered unlicensed public adjusting if I talk pricing for a contract an estimate that I wrote? I'm not talking coverage, just the price of the estimate and everything. And they're like, well, you shouldn't be doing that because the bill's the bill. And I was like, are you kidding me? That we do that every day. Every company,
day.
I can name you 100 companies right now that do that every day here in Indiana. But the problem is there's not enough of us actually reporting it back, saying, "Hey, we bill for $10,000." The insurance company is saying our bills, it's not the standard of care and all, and they're only willing to get a $6,000. We're not enough people are reporting it to the insurance bureau to make it worth their fucking time to investigate it. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, they're lobbied to look the other way.
Yeah, they really are. the most states the insurance commissioner is an appointed position, and who gets to say who is appointed? Right? It's those with influence.
Whoever has the best handshake.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
And it's hard. I mean, how do we do that? And that's my question. How do we do that as an industry if uh if uh you know
I hate saying it like this here. Now, for me, I'm not against saying this here because I grew up in it and I love it, and y'all can have your own mentalities on it. I grew up in a unionized family. The only way I, honest to God, ever see our industry ever really being able to fight the battle and actually make a difference is if the restoration industry were to become a unionized industry and have the collective bargaining. Because regardless of what you want to say, guys, if you're a pro or against unions, if it wasn't for unions, you wouldn't have weekends. You wouldn't have 8-hour days and then time and a half after 40. That was all unions doing that shit. They protected our rights. And they have worked so hard on making sure that we all think the unions are bullshit and they're just there to take our money and screw us over, that we've lost faith in them. But they were there for a reason, and a very fucking good reason back in the day.
Yes, 100%.
And I truly, honest to God, believe that if the industry did unionize up, granted, yeah, not everyone's going to be a part of the union. You don't have to be a part of the union. But if we had a collective bargaining unionization across the country of restoration contractors, that would be like kicking the door down when the cops show up. Like, you're going to make a difference.
Here's the deal. We're not going to get any of the big players on board for that. Because that means the big players, and we don't have to name names at this point, but the big players, if we unionize water damage technicians, right? That's what makes most sense for me, right? Water damage technicians union. Who stands to lose the most is the big players who have private equity backing, who are going for the whole managed repair game. And we're never going to get the big players behind something like that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I didn't have to say it. That's where it is. I mean, it's not even just that. Hicker Billy's 45.
Like, I was talking to somebody.
You named 3 out of 10. Right?
Well, that's the thing, is like, I was talking to somebody today about about third-party estimate, and I was like, I don't ever hear anybody ever talking about writing estimates for like Australia. They have a massive restoration industry, and they have a massive population within the Rebel group and with and Xactimate ninjas and all over Facebook. But you know what? They're not required to do Xactimate. They can bill however the hell they want, and they don't have half the problems we do.
Exactly.
At least that's what I've been led to believe. And it's because they don't have the regulations and everything being thrown down them like we do. Like, the changes and stuff, it's not it is just for us. It feels like everywhere, but it is. And it's because we've let these carriers prioritize them making their money over doing what's right. And unless you're doing the rebel fight, which is, Mr. Homeowner, here's your invoice. You owe me my money. You've got 45 days. You now can, here's all the photos, here's the moisture logs. Doesn't have to make sense to you. Just submit to your insurance company. But when they come back and they say, well, they want to talk to the file, I'm going to say, no, my bill's already been, the homeowner's already accepted my invoice. You can tell the homeowner how much you're going to pay, and all, they're still going to owe the full bill. Unless you are doing that there, you're going to have to play the game. And no matter how much you bitch and complain about it, it ain't going to mean shit.
So, we're 2 hours and 23 minutes. What should I tell? How should I approach Mr. Stephen Badger tomorrow?
I think you need to sit down tonight and ask your questions. Maybe even have your AI write your questions out in a way. AI, write this question to prevent a lawyer from countering with straight bullshit.
Well, yeah, I've already heard from. Okay, this is a good question right here from Paul Stern. Doesn't matter. The carrier is going to pay what they feel is fair and leave the balance on the homeowner. I think that is the problem. especially when it comes to mitigation work and costs incurred to mitigate a loss. I think the fact that these carriers are paying 50 cents on the dollar or less, is it acts as not a deterrent. What's the word I'm looking for? It puts downward pressure on the entire industry, and creates an environment where the actual costs incurred is somehow downplayed and devalued.
I want to, this is something I'll tell everybody to think it over and everything, because it's true. Spin and quote unquote fear mongering is so prevalent in our industry that, guys, if you talk to a homeowner, somebody, family member, someone that doesn't know what the hell anything about insurance, and you ask them, hey, if you go to if you were to hire, if you're going to have an insurance company pay for your bill, who do you think the insurance is going to go with? And their insurance is going to say they're going to go with the lowest bidder. That's what the insurance company wants. They want the lowest bidder.
Yep.
But here's the rub. Here's the, like I said, the spin and the fear mongering that the insurance company has been able to put out for homeowners is that they've put them in a position where they think that if I take an Xactimate file that I would turn into the insurance company, I say, oh, you're self-pay. Well, it's the same price. Here it is. And they see that it's $10,000. They are like, there's no fucking way I would pay this out of pocket. This is too damn expensive. And they assume that that's why people give discounts or they give cheaper prices for self-pay, because everyone knows the insurance or the homeowner ain't going to pay out of pocket the insurance rates. But all homeowners think that the insurance rate would be cheaper. And that's usually why when they say, I'll do self-pay, and then they turn in insurance, that's what they think is going to happen. And the insurance has done that to ensure that if we are doing this, if we are balance billing our clients, if we're saying, hey, Miss Smith, you owe the difference, they come back to us and they say, bullshit. The insurance paid you. Why do you need this difference paid out by me? You're ripping me off. The insurance has purposely set the system up against you for that result, to ensure that you are not going to go back to that homeowner 90% of the time and say, you owe me the $4,000 difference, because you'll never get it now.
Yeah. And Paul Stern brings up a good point. One problem is that contractors build differently when they know a contractor is involved. And I coach every single one of my clients that your price is your price. Your price should not be different. Your price for services rendered should not be different, dependent upon who is paying that bill. With one caveat: if you know that you're going to have to wait 120 days to get paid in full for your bill should absolutely be more to cover that cost. You've covered the cost for the
interest
labor.
of all. You got interest.
Well, you've got the opportunity cost, and not interest. I think interest is a bad way to put it. I think it's just you've incurred those costs, and now you're carrying those costs until you get paid. And there's
to make money,
that
not
costs
to
money.
bank. That's
Say
where
what?
I'm in the business to make money, not to play the fucking bank. And that's where a lot of contractors do fail at, because they're trying to finance these jobs over here with these jobs as initial money. And then they waited so long to get the RCD of this money. They don't have enough money to start these jobs now because they use that money over here. GCs all the time. That's the biggest reason that GC sells, is because they don't have enough liquid asset to properly manage when you're doing an entire 100% job for 60%, and then you're waiting sometimes 3 months to collect your other 40%.
Yeah, there's the number one. I had somebody on the phone yesterday. Number one risk to restoration contractors is they're not going to get paid for the work they did. That's the number one risk. And so we have to factor that risk in to our calculus when we're building our pricing.
Money in 30 days is worth substantially more value than money in 90
Yeah,
days.
that's why I'll give a 10, I'll give a 20% early pay discount on in some circumstances on mitigation if they pay me. You pay me within 5 days. You pay me within 7 days. I'm going to reduce, of course I'm going to reduce my invoice. It's called an early pay discount because I know that money at 6 months from now, that $6,000 mitigation is not, that $6,000 is not worth $6,000. That actually cost me $8,000 or $10,000 because I've carried those costs and I've carried that receivable for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. And
why
that's where
people charge
things
late fees.
get confused.
That's why you should charge late fees on payments that are not within the basis.
100%. 100%. All right. So I'm gonna see. I haven't seen a link come through from Mitch Byram yet, but as soon as I do, I'm gonna see if I can stream that shit live tomorrow. Otherwise, I know I'm going live at 8:30 tomorrow morning with Mitch Byram and Steve Badger, and I will replay that video as soon as humanly possible. How about that? So,
Sounds like a plan.
Joe, thanks for hanging with me, man. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties.
You're fine, man. We always make it work.
Yes, you do. Yes,
As
you do.
always, guys, we'll do our shameless little plugs. If you are
Yes.
needing help with your policies and procedures, if you need someone to help ensure that your technicians are doing their work, reach out to Mr. Andy here with Quick Check, right?
QuickCheckPro.com.
And all his system is set up where before you leave and you drive away, your techs drive out of the driveway, they call and they check and they make sure that everything got done and they verify that before you even have to write your estimate, the documentation's there for you. If you need somebody to help on Xactimate, not certification training, as I've decided now to word it, I am not going to train people on how to use Xactimate. I'm going to train people on how to integrate Xactimate to make money into their system.
That's fair.
And if you need help with learning how to use Xactimate in a real world scenario, contact me at Restoration Resolutions. And since I haven't said it yet, I think I started to earlier. I've also now taken on a position at SFY Solutions for You that helps with estimate writing and with collections. And I'm overseeing their division and helping them build that up. And they're a great company. I like everybody I've met so far. I'm very happy that I'm going to be there doing that. And if you do need help overall, just outsourcing your estimating system so you can spend more time in the field working, reach out to me as well, and I will put you in touch with the right people.
Nice. All right, Joe. Good to see you, brother. We'll see you next. What do you think? Should we go back to weekly or keep it on bi-weekly? What do you think?
I mean, honestly, I'm fine with going back to. I'm not gonna lie. I miss talking every week, but I feel like we just didn't have enough showing up really to make it worth our while to do it every week.
But I think we got some traction here. I think we had some people involved in the peanut gallery here. All right, well, let's talk about it tomorrow.
Mull it over. All right.
See you, bro.
Later, guys.